Hello, brothers and sisters. It's Uncle Z, reporting live from my vehicle. I had a few minutes before my meeting, so I decided to record this short video for you about the difference between scoring films and scoring ads, and why I have personally decided that as far as making money goes, I much prefer the domain of writing music for ads, and I'll tell you the reasons why. I'll tell you the reasons why film scoring as a way of making money is not necessarily appealing to me, and I'll tell you why the reasons why creating music for ads as a way of making money is much more preferable to me. I put on a film composer scarf just for you today so I can look more distinguished and credible. So here we go. Why do I prefer, as far as making money with music, why do I prefer making music for ads? The number one reason is that things happen really fast. When things happen really fast, that means you can squeeze in more projects throughout the year. That's the first thing. The average ad probably doesn't take much more than 2 weeks from start to finish, 2 to 3 weeks to create music for. These are not full-time days. You're literally spending probably 2 hours to create the first demo, and probably, depending on the revisions, anywhere from 1 to 2 hours for each revision. Let's say there are 3 revisions. Overall, you're probably spending a full day or two. The entire process will take 2 to 3 weeks, let's say, but your time in the studio will probably be a day or two. Okay, and then you can probably be doing parallel projects, and as soon as the project is over, hopefully another project comes. The point is, you're turning around projects very frequently, which means that you're sending an invoice very frequently. And as far as making money with music goes, that is preferable. That is preferable to the world of film, where you're probably spending a long, long time with the director, with the editor. I mean, it all depends on the film. I know some happen quickly and some happen longer. But let's say it's not a 2 week process. It's probably more like at least a month, maybe 3 months, maybe all the way up to 6 months, where you're dealing with a single project, a single film director, okay? And I'm not sure how long it takes to get paid in the world of film, but that's already a long time to be sitting there in the studio and then invoicing and then waiting for the film studio to pay the money, or the producer, or whoever pays you. So that's the first thing. It's the speed at which projects happen. In advertising, the speed is deadly, which means you can do a lot more project in a single year. The second thing is, people romanticize scoring films as more of an art form than scoring music for commercials or brand content. And in some cases, of course, that may be true. There's a lot of films where music was standout. It was legendary. It was timeless. It became a kind of a model, a standard by which other people began to reference their own projects. That's for sure. It happens quite a bit. But I've also heard premier Hollywood composers like Hans Zimmer, they don't get to be very creative anymore. The producer hands them a reference track for the film. The reference track is probably based on some blockbuster. And much of the time, they're just basically hired for their name. So their name looks good on the poster, but they're not asked to contribute very creative ideas, very artistic ideas a lot of the time. And so people romanticize, film scoring as something that will allow you to express yourself fully, when in fact, much of the time it won't. Of course, there might be exceptions, but these will be exceptions. Maybe a friend, film director of yours working on some independent film. Again, as far as making money goes, that may not be the best route to making a living with music. Working with your friend on an indie film that like 12 people will watch. I'm being totally unfair. Best of luck to your indie film director friend. I hope 1 million people watch the film, of course. I'm just saying, let's be realistic. It's probably not going to be a blockbuster that makes you millions of dollars as a composer, right? And so at least it gives you a chance to be creative. Great. In the world of music and brands, we're talking about music very often that is asked by the brand team, by the advertising agency. They're asking the music to stand out. They're asking for the music very often, not always, not even most of the time, I would say, but a lot more than in film scoring. They are asking the music to play the lead, to be the hero, to elevate the campaign to another level. A lot of times, by the time the ad gets to the composer, there's often frustration, there's often disillusionment, there's often doubt and despair because the entire thing did not turn out as they thought it would. And so by the time it gets to the composer, they're like, we really need the music to do the heavy lifting here, to bring the ad to another level. It didn't turn out as special as we thought. So if the song is special, then everything is going to be great. But all that is to say is that there is a lot of different creative directions that happen. Every time you're scoring an ad, the briefs will be so different from one another. And so I really get a lot of satisfaction from being able to work on a variety of projects and compare this to like sitting in a studio with a film director who's like, yeah, it's got to be like this, reference track, and don't interfere with the dialogue, and don't make the music stand out too much because it's going to overpower the scene or the film. It's got to be really subtle in the background. And it's like, well, how is a C note from some Omnisphere patch? Is that fine? Yeah, that sounds good. It's not intrusive. It doesn't provoke. Actually, can we lower it in a mix by about 12 dB? Oh, yeah, that's perfect. It's not exactly my idea of creative expression, okay? And again, I'm not saying every film is like that, but a lot of films are like that, okay? Whereas in advertising, very often, yes, you get the same bullshit of clients saying, lower the best part, lower this, change that. But at least you get a shot for the music to be a hero. And sometimes, and I think it happens more often in commercials for cool brands, especially cool brands, where they're looking for something cool. They're looking for something spiky and provocative and intrusive to really provoke attention, right? So that's the second aspect that I really enjoy compared to what I've heard about happens in film scoring. The third aspect is the money. I think like Class A top Hollywood composers are probably making an amazing living putting down C notes from an Omnisphere. I'm just kidding, of course. But yeah, they probably make an amazing living, but that's few and far in between, right? Overall, I would say that Hollywood blockbusters have their kind of family of composers that they keep going back to time and time again. Occasionally, a new face breaks in, and they start being cool and popular and getting all the jobs. But I think majority of the film production, like let's say indie production, that composers like you or I would get a shot at, the money is probably not great. I have very limited experience in this regard, but I have literally turned down every film that has been given to me. And and it was because of the budget. Like one of the proposals that I had a few years ago was for some film being produced in China, and these guys had $5,000 for about 30 minutes of music. And compared to the advertising world, that's not very good, because very often you're going to get $5,000 for 30 seconds of music, 60 seconds of music, 90 seconds of music, right? So I turned this down. It wasn't even for the money, because the topic was not something that I aligned with. So it didn't work anyway. But I was just like, yeah, that's not a lot of money for 30 minutes of music. But then get this, a few years later, I get another proposal. Now, creatively, it's aligned with what I want to do. The film director is really cool, but he's like, look, man, I don't really have much money for this. So I don't know, like maybe, it's coming out of my own pocket. We're already in debt on this film. And I was just like, whoa, God bless you for braving this storm and climbing this mountain. But like, this is my career. Like, I don't even know how I can reconcile my time, because these films are going to take a lot of time. And especially if I care about it creatively, I want to put in the time. But then it's like, how do you explain to your family that you're doing the plumbing for free, or that you're building houses for free? This is my profession, right? So it's like, if I am to do something for free that I really care about, well, then it's relegated to my evening. But if it's relegated to my evening, that means it's going to clash with family time, which is priceless and invaluable to me. So you really got to weigh these things. But I really got the sense, dealing with my limited experience in the film world, that it is quite a challenge when it comes to budgets, and probably not surprisingly so, because these independent films are not going to make a lot of money. Then another experience I had was a well-known film director in Poland who already had a film going. He's had a few films happening. I'm not going to mention his name. But basically, I got a proposal to rescore a film that will be released in the North American market. And this is a film that is already known in Europe. And he offered me around 2,000 American dollars. This is a 90-minute film. I'm not sure how much music there would be in this film, but let's say 45 minutes, maybe 30 to 45 minutes. And he gave me 2 weeks to do it. And I was just like, wait, 2 weeks for a 90-minute film? I mean, maybe this is the kind of stuff that like seasoned film composers can pull off, but I was like, you can't be serious. Like 2 weeks for a 90-minute film? Maybe it's just me. I work really slow as a composer. As a producer, I work fast. But as a producer, I'm not actually scoring, right? I'm hiring others to do the scoring. So maybe other musicians, other composers are just way faster than me. But I thought, boy, 2 weeks. I mean, seriously, that's like a deadline for a lot of the ad campaigns that I'm working on, where the music is 30 seconds, right? So it seemed crazy to me. And then again, the money comes up and it's $2,000 for a 90-minute film. And I'm just like, if I spend the next 2 weeks working on this film, it'll probably be full-time days. Full-time days. So I guess $2,000 for 2 weeks of work, full-time work, it's not the worst kind of money, but I have to contrast it with the opportunities that I have in the ad world. If I spend the next 2 weeks contacting, let's say 30 people a day, that's 150 people a week, that's 300 people in 2 weeks. If you contact 300 people, do you not think that there's going to be 1 or 2 leads, 1, 2, 3 leads or opportunities that you might be able to latch onto? And very few opportunities in the advertising world are gonna ask you to work full time for 2 weeks for $2,000. They do happen also. Yes, they do happen. I mean, even freebies happen in the advertising world. But generally speaking, you're not going to be asked to work 2 full-time weeks on 90 minutes of music for $2,000 in the advertising world. So are there trade-offs? Are there pluses and minuses? Of course there are. Is film scoring more virtuous? Just a better thing all around than making music for brands? I guess it depends on the film. There are really great films where music gets to express itself, and then it's not even about the money, because honestly, having a chance to score a beautiful film that's going to make a lot of noise around the world and you're happy with the music is going to give you a lot other opportunities from a lot of other high-frequency folks, people whose sensibility and skills are on a really high level. So how much is that worth, right? But how often is that going to happen? Honestly, more often than not, you're going to be beholden to a vision of a film director whose film you're probably not even going to enjoy that much. Honestly, that's going to happen a lot. And the creative choices that this film director is going to make and the musical choices that he's going to ask you to make, you're not going to resonate with. So therefore, you always have to weigh the kind of romanticized vision that you have against reality. Now, in the ad world, things are pretty clear. We're not trying to win a Nobel Peace Prize in the ad world. We're not saving lives, okay? So you can take the romantic aspect out of that. But even having said that, are there beautiful campaigns? Yes. Are there virtuous campaigns for good causes with beautiful cinematic work and craft and just a beautiful message? Yes. Those happen all the time, right? Are there totally crappy and non-virtuous and just cheesy and terrible ads that make you want to jump out of your window? Yes, of course. I guess the tragedy of those ads is made a little bit better by the fact that you can send a juicy invoice. I'm just saying. I know some of you might be saying now, oh, so you're selling your soul. You're working on terrible things for money. Great, Uncle Z, you've just sold your soul. Well, the composers who are busy in our business, they always get the right to decline the spots, and it doesn't make their career suffer. Okay? They've been around for a while. Once you establish yourself in a business as a reliable and competent composer for moving media, and you're doing a great job, nobody's gonna say anything when you say, I'm not gonna hop on this one. You don't even have to tell people the reason, okay? You just say, I'm not interested in this one, or I'm too busy right now, I got other projects going on, whatever, right? They're gonna be like, okay, no problem, we'll come back to you on the next one. And they will, right? And so you can always decline. You can always decline. Or if you don't care, because you're not gonna show this on your reel, you don't even have to put your name on it. You just bite down on your mouth guard, you do whatever they ask you to do, and then you send a juicy invoice. I'm willing to do something shitty. And I don't mean like evil. I don't mean like it'll be harmful to humans. I just mean like it'll be a terrible, cheesy brief for some supermarket or some German shampoo, and it's terrible creatively, but at least it's going to pay me. I'm willing to do that. What else could I do that's going to pay me well that allows me to sit in the studio? I mean, that's the basic calculation. Okay, so this video is getting long and I got to go to my meeting now. But to sum it up, to those of you who think the ad world is terrible and film scoring is the most romantic, beautiful thing ever, I need you to become friends with reality. Films take a long time to score. Let's say 6 months you're sitting there in the studio with a film director. Very often, they're not creatively rewarding because the producer comes with a reference track. They want it to sound like Batman from 10 years ago, or they're asking you to play a C note on Omnisphere so it doesn't interfere with anything, and then lower it by 12 dB because it's still interfering with the dialogue. That's not my idea of creative expression. Of course, That doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get these beautiful art house films where you get to express yourself creatively, but then you got to ask yourself, are you going to be able to feed your family with art house films? I can't answer that question for you. And speaking of creative expression, a lot of times film have this kind of like film scory thing that we all expect, right? Like under the dialogue, we're going to have this. Under a car chase scene, we're going to have this. Under the titles, we're going to have this, the credits, I mean. Whereas in ads, very often the music is asked to be spiky, provocative, challenging, out there, loud. We're trying to get attention. We're trying to be cool and credible with the kids in the street, which means the music gets to play way more of a creative role than the functional film scoring music that's often asked not to interfere with the action or the dialogue. And then, of course, the money. I know top composers in Hollywood make probably handsome money. And if you want to be one of the top composers in Hollywood, then be my guest. Go for it. I mean, I think it's beautiful. But if you're just wanting to sit in the studio as a working composer for moving media, I don't think it would be a shock if I said that the average budget for the average commercial for 30, 60, or 90 seconds of music, which requires you no more than a couple of days or nights in the studio, is going to be much better as a budget than sitting 6 months in the studio with some director who's probably having to pay you out of their own pocket, and then you feel bad, you don't want to take their money, whatever, I don't know. And again, these are not hard and fast rules, folks. These are not written in stone. Maybe there will be a film opportunity where it's creatively rewarding and you want to spend, weeks sitting in a studio creating this thing. It's not always about money, okay? I want that to be clear. As musicians, we have to balance this weird game of money and art, okay? And so you really have to understand what drives you and what you're capable of doing and what your situation in life is, and weigh it carefully with the opportunities that you're given. I want to give you a caveat at the end that if you focus too much on money and you make it all about money, actually your career is going to suffer. The reason why it's going to suffer is because you can only keep grinding so much without creative fulfillment. That's number one. Number two is that if you never do things that may be shit as far as the budget goes, but are creatively inspiring, you're not going to have an inspiring reel. Some of the best things on my reel I have accepted even though the money was terrible, because I knew the value of having worked on a piece like this that will make my reel shine is much more than the crappy budget that they're giving me. And in fact, it always turns out to be true, meaning that if you accept a $1,000 job, $2,000 job, or even a freebie, but you can see that the brief is amazing, it's creatively fulfilling, it's going to raise eyebrows, it's going to give goosebumps, I would advise to a lot of composers that you do it. The reason why is because it's going to elevate your currency as a composer. It's going to elevate your reel. It's going to give you something to share with other people. And one of these like really cool, creatively fulfilling and amazing jobs could be getting you more jobs for years to come. And I know that is true for me. Some of the low budget or even free jobs that I've done as a music producer were so good creatively that they basically brought other paying jobs. So you really want to carefully consider that. It's not always about money, but generally speaking, the message of this video is that if you're considering making a living with music, having the reign to have a lot of creative variety, and sending beautiful, juicy invoices for a few days of work in the studio, then the advertising industry, whether you like it or not, is probably the answer for a lot of you. I want to thank you for watching this video. My name is Tommy Z. I'll see you in the next one.